so excited today because this is one of my favorite recipes to make, to work with the dough, and to eat. I have tsureki every morning, all year round, but the days when I'm fasting and I cannot have any eggs or dairy. But I'm pleased I'm gonna show you this for Easter, which is coming up on the 24th for Orthodox Christian. I have here 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of yeast, 3 2/3 of a cup of flour, which measures 650 grams of bread flour. You can also use all-purpose flour, 2 eggs, 3/4 of a cup plus a tablespoon or 2 of liquid, extra depending on the weather, of I mix yogurt and milk. So I use about heaping 1/4 of a cup of whole milk yogurt and 1/2 cup of milk, and I see if it needs a little bit more or not. But this is about how much it takes. Now, why do I use yogurt? Because yogurt makes the tsureki to stay tender and soft much longer. It doesn't dry out fast, even when you have it on the counter for a whole day. It continues to be soft and tender. Try it. You're gonna like the result. Now I have 3/4 of a teaspoon of mastic that has ground, and I ground it with some sugar to keep it from sticking together because this is like gummy. It's like a gum. And this is mahlepi, and this is how it looks as seeds. And this is when it's ground, and I use 2 tablespoons, 1 3/4 to 2 tablespoons here. I like the flavor. Now I will start with having the yeast activated, and while we're waiting for it to rise a little bit and bubble, we're gonna talk about those ingredients. So in here, I'm gonna warm a little bit of milk, and I will add to the yeast from the measured ingredients already a tablespoon of sugar, and I will add some of that warm milk and let it sit for like 5 minutes. It will start to activate and it will make the dough rise much faster. I'm gonna measure 1/4 of a cup. I'm gonna add it into the yeast and sugar, mix it, and just let it sit for 5 minutes. So let me tell you about mastic. Mastic, it comes from trees that are from the same family of pine trees. And these tears, they are the resin that comes out of the bark of the tree. Chios mastic grows only on the island of Chios, Greece. And the whole atmosphere and it helps those trees to thrive over there. They have tried to grow these trees otherwhere in the world, but they have never grown as healthy and well as in Chios. They tend to be the best brand. Now, what they do, they have to harm the bark actually and they slash it with kind of a knife, sharp knife, and the bark, to heal itself, it creates this sap that comes and covers that wound that have been created on the bark to heal it. And that's what the mastic is. And we also use mahlepi. The mahlepi is also from a berry tree, like a cherry type of a tree, that the seeds of the fruit, the cherry, they crack it open and you get the core, which is the mahlepi. The smell is very pleasant, but if you taste it, it's a little bit bitter. But when you mix it with the flour, that sweet smell get enhanced, and it gives this beautiful aroma to the tsureki, which we are looking for. Here's the yeast. Like 3 minutes after I added the liquids into it, it got activated. When you see those bubbles, it means the yeast is good. You're set to go. Now let's start making the dough. The way I do it, first of all, you need the hook for dough hook. You place it in your mixer, and I start with the liquids, leaving the melted butter aside. So the liquids are my eggs, sugar, believe it or not, counted with the liquids because I'm gonna break the eggs into the sugar. So I'll start with the sugar, and then I'll crack the eggs. 1, 2, just breaking the yolk. You don't need to beat it. So I'll add the yogurt. I'm adding the yogurt because it's cold. It's cool at least. Let me mix it in. And now slowly I'm adding the hot milk. And I didn't add the hot milk first because I didn't want it to cook the eggs. So total amount, I start with 3/4. We had 1/4 yogurt and 1/4 of milk. And now I had 1/4 of milk in the yeast, as you remember. So I'm gonna add that first. I'm gonna pour the yeast in. And now into these liquids, I will add the flour, 650 grams, 3 cups and 2/3. All the flour goes in. And the aromas, I have 2 tablespoons of mahlepi, 3/4 of a teaspoon of mastic, and it sticks, so you need to scrape it down. Mix. And now I'm supposed to achieve a really nice and fluffy, not too sticky of a dough, but not too firm of a dough. It needs to be very pliable. At that time, I will decide if I'm gonna need to add a little bit more milk, a tablespoon or 2 at the max, or not. And now the dough needs to feel right, and then we will add the butter, which I add at the end because that what makes the dough a lot more tender, because I don't want the butter to moisten the flour and to give me the illusion that the dough is already fluffy enough. I want it to be fluffy before the butter. The butter is gonna only add on its tenderness, if that makes sense to you. As you see, the dough is a little bit dry, so I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of milk, warm milk. Now it looks much better. See, the whole dough starts to clump together. So at this point, I'm gonna add the butter. It should be warm, not hot. So it is warm. And I have 75 grams of butter melted here. Okay, so the dough will continue to knead until it achieves one mass that is nice, tender, and fluffy. Sometimes if you feel that your machine is getting tired, you can turn it off, let it sit for few minutes, 3 minutes, and then turn it back on. And actually that will give the dough to rest a little bit, and it will knead much better after. Okay, so now it has been about not even 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. The dough all came together. The bowl is clean, and I just want to show you how tender it is. It doesn't stick on your hands. It's warm and nice. Now this dough, I shaped it and I put it in this bowl. It's warm and nice. I will cover it with saran wrap and I'll put it in a warm place to rise. It's gonna take about 3 hours or so. So you need to be patient, but the result is gonna be great. It needs to at least double its size. Now that the dough has risen, it's time to shape it. See, I just want to show you how bubbly it is and how fluffy compared to what it was. Now, what I normally do is dump it on a board, and I have kind of a silpat for the dough here. So let me show you how I'm gonna braid it into a large one first, and then I'll show you the smaller ones. So this I'm gonna cut into 3. Braid normally needs 3 pieces, but I'm gonna make it a braid of 6 pieces, and I'll show you how. It's really fun. This is my favorite part of the whole thing. So each third I cut in 2, and now I have 6 pieces of dough. I put them to the side, and I take one at a time, and I just roll it until it is about this thick. I do the same with the 5 others. So I'm going to show you how to make a braid with 6 strands. So I have collected the strands at the top over here, and we'll have a close-up of how to braid them. I take the one on the right and I bring it all the way to the left, and the one on the left I bring it all the way to the right. And now I have 2 horizontals and 4 that are flowing down kind of from this braid. So what I do, I take the one from the right and I place it in the middle. And to replace it, I take from the right to the left. Now the left goes in the middle. To replace it, this goes back there. Now this goes in the middle, and to replace it, this comes here. And now this, the right goes in the middle, and to replace it, the one on the left goes all the way to the right. And then you just lock it at the end. Bunch them up. Now on this side, I'm gonna try to also do the same to complete it and have it the same look. And here is a beautiful braid that is done and needs to be baked. Okay, so this is the other half of the dough. I cut it in half because I'm gonna make smaller braid, and this time I'm gonna make it the simple way, which is just with 3 strands, and I do it from the middle. So I do an X like that, and then another one like this. And now from the middle, I start that braid. Just like this. And the same I do on the other side. And now you have a braid that the ends, the two tips of the braid are exactly the same. For individual buns, I just do a long strand and I knot it. I go around and I bring it up like this. And this is gonna become like an individual bun. Those now, they will have to rise. I place them in the sheet that I'm gonna bake them in. To rise, they will almost double, not quite double, but almost double in size again. And then we're gonna glaze them with an egg wash and bake them. Now my tsureki are risen and we need to glaze them with egg wash. I will add to my egg a little bit brandy. I mix it really well and just brush the dough. Meanwhile, I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees. Here we are, 16 minutes later after in the oven, baking in the oven. I have two beautiful loaves here. Extremely hot right now, but they are brown, but they are soft from the inside. That chocolatey look is because of the brandy that I added also to the egg wash. So they're gonna be really very soft and tender from the inside. I'll show you. Now let me show you. Those I didn't let over rise. When it over rises, it loses the figure on that you're trying to make, the braid, it loses it. So this is the one that didn't over rise, the small one, the individual one. I just want to show you how it looks from the inside. Soft, see, very spongy, and it's all perfectly baked. And the smell is out of this world.